What's up, Cowboys Nation? It's week 3 in the NFL, and the Dallas Cowboys are taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, here we go. Here's it out for Lamb. He's got it. He's gone. This is history. It's never happened in the history of the
NFL. Here we go. The 0-2 Baltimore Ravens are visiting the Dallas Cowboys, who are 1-1 at AT&T Stadium. The Cowboys are looking to avoid an 0-2 start at AT&T Stadium, something that they have not done since 2010. And the Baltimore Ravens are looking to avoid an 0-3 start, something they haven't done since 2015. When one of those teams have done those, either things that I just mentioned, they have missed the playoffs. So a lot at stake. It's a big game. This is a large game this early on. And I'll say what I've been saying this entire time. I think the great thing about this schedule for the Dallas Cowboys is we know what type of team we'll have at the bye week, honestly. We'll know what type of team that we have. We'll definitely know our weaknesses. We'll definitely know our strengths. We'll definitely know what we do best. And we won't have to wait until the playoffs, if there are the playoffs for the Cowboys, of what type of team this is. But this is a large task right here. And I'll just say this right off the bat, and you'll hear me say it a couple of times throughout the video. When teams are in a slump, when they're on losing streaks, and they need to get back into a rhythm, and they don't look like themselves, come to Dallas. And you guys are probably going to be a little bit mad for me saying that, but you know deep down it's true. You look at any team that's been losing, that's been out of rhythm, that's just not looked good, or maybe hasn't looked themselves, play Dallas. You're obviously going to bring your best because it's the Cowboys and everyone's going to be watching, but something about us, we bring out the best in other teams and they get to ride the ship. And that's my gut feeling. And I'm not even going to sugarcoat it this video. That's my gut feeling about this game. I think it's going to be a heck of a game. I can't wait to watch it. I think Dak and Lamar are both going to go off and it's going to be a nail biter. But let's go ahead and jump into this game. Week 3 is here. Cowboys are 1-1. We have another home game. And the thing about the home game too, I mean, I get it. We were 16-0 for obviously 16 regular season games, and you could pick at that schedule whatever you want. But you can't take that away from the Cowboys. You can't take that away. They won 16 straight home games. But I say that, and I just think we're probably going to be better on the road this year than we are at home. And I just don't think home field advantage doesn't exist for the Cowboys. Now, home field advantage, I don't think it's ever existed for Dallas. I don't think the fans have ever really played a factor into the noise and what opposing teams come into. But you can't deny the fact that the Cowboys feel better. And I'm talking about the players. The players feel better when they're at home and they're playing at AT&T Stadium. Otherwise, AT&T Stadium is a neutral site for any team that comes in. I mean, opposing teams. There's going to be a lot of Ravens fans at the game, and they're going to show up. And it's a turf field. I mean, it's a pretty neutral field for any team that comes in and plays the Cowboys. Going back to the Ravens and the Cowboys, the Ravens are actually one of the rare teams that have a winning record all time against the Dallas Cowboys. They're sitting at 5-1. I mean, they've completely dominated the Cowboys in the 6 games, about to be 7 games that they have played all time. Of course, the Ravens were the Baltimore Colts before they became the Ravens. But the Ravens have owned this matchup since 2000, dating back to 2000. And the one time that we have won actually was back in 2016 when Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott were rookies, and they completely dominated that game. Now you're probably asking, what about the one that was 4 years ago? Well, we did play in Baltimore. The Ravens did end up winning that one 34-17, and that was the COVID year. I mean, Dak was injured. So that's what I wanted to say. Dak was injured, so he didn't play that game. Zeke played that game. And that was CeeDee Lamb's rookie year. Michael Gallup was had the most yards in that game. You talk about a defense that was led by Mike Nolan, Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch, just not a very good defense. And thinking back at that game, I actually thought it was a little bit closer than I thought it was going to be. Like, you look at the score, 34-17, right? The Ravens beat the Cowboys. But if you remember watching the game, the Cowboys actually had a little bit of a lead there for a little bit, and Andy Dalton was quarterback. And so that leads me to say this. I Look, I get Lamar Jackson is MVP. I get it. And I've been very vocal about it that I don't think he should have been MVP. I think Dak Prescott should have been MVP. And that's me. Like, I'm so unbiased and realistic. It's just Dak should have been MVP. If the roles were swapped, if Lamar played for Dallas and Dak played for Baltimore, like, you know, it's just the image that's cast on being a Dallas Cowboy. It's just not going to go your way most of the time. But I'll say this, Lamar Jackson is a very talented quarterback, like can extend plays, run the ball really well. But I'm not scared of him. I'll say that. I'm not scared of him. I don't think when you talk about being fearful of a quarterback like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, or quarterbacks that like we're just like up all night, you know, up all week thinking about wondering what they could do to you. Lamar Jackson doesn't make me feel that way. I think the Cowboys have a personnel and they have a team that can beat the Ravens and stop Lamar Jackson. I personally believe that. Now, it all comes down to execution, right? It all comes down to Sunday, and can the Cowboys actually do it? That's a whole nother thing. But going into this, I'm not staying up at nights in a cold sweat worried about Lamar Jackson. Now, if he goes off, whatever. But that's just me. Like, even that first game 4 years ago in 2020, he doesn't strike me as that. And you know, that might be crazy to hear, but like, he doesn't scare me. I feel like if the Cowboys lose, it's a lot on them. Like, they did some things that were uncharacteristic. Now, we talked about the Cowboys at home. We talked about the home record. We talked about all of that. But what about the Baltimore Ravens? Well, last year they were 7-1 on the road. I mean, you talk about a really good road record. There it is right there. I mean, that's what I think most teams should strive for, is a really good road record, because you're able to take your identity on the road and win in hostile environments. And the only loss that they had last season was against their division rivals, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost 17-10, low scoring ball game, which, you know, AFC North teams are more than capable of. They can keep you down. And, you know, Steelers we play in a couple weeks here too as well. So the Ravens, they can carry that success. Now, big thing, obviously, the Ravens are 0-2. Made it to the AFC Championship game last year. Lamar Jackson being MVP. They've added Derrick Henry. They have Zay Flowers. They have Mark Andrews. A lot of weapons. And on that defense, you obviously lose a big piece in their linebacker, but that defense, Kyle Hamilton, is still there. So 0-2 is probably one of the bigger headlines in the National Football League this early in the season. And the Ravens are going to bring their best. They're going to, like I said before, if you're in a slump, if you're on a losing streak, if you need to get back into any kind of rhythm, play the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys will help you out. And that's just me saying it as an unbiased and realistic fan. It has happened. I mean, that story has been told so many times. So I seriously doubt that the Cowboys are going to dog walk the Ravens. I fully expect Lamar to finally flip it on like a switch and look like the MVP he was last year. I fully expect Derrick Henry, who they've been struggling to get into the run game and struggling to figure out how to use him, they're going to know how to use him on Sunday. And the defense that's been struggling against play action, I fully expect them to finally click and give the Cowboys their best. It's just the way it is, And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, right? And the Cowboys prove me wrong, and they go out there and they blow out the Ravens and they reclaim themselves as one of the better teams in the NFC. But history repeats itself. And, to think that the Cowboys are going to take control and take care of an 0-2 Ravens team that has championship aspirations, I mean, that would be nuclear if the Ravens went 0-3. And they're going to bring their best, is what I'm trying to say. This is going to be a tough game. And this is almost like a playoff game. This is almost December-esque football here, because the Ravens are going to come in here, do anything that they can to win this game. And the Cowboys have to match that physicality. The Cowboys have to match that effort. The Cowboys have to ultimately beat that. And that's a tall task. And, we're going to talk about defense. We're going to talk about offense. But just that type of effort, that type of mindset that a team brings, we've often see just like teams just punch the Cowboys in the mouth and the Cowboys can't recover. So it's still early in the season. So win or lose, it's still early in the season. There's still a lot to grow up here from, and there's still a lot to learn from this early in the season. But I'm interested to see not only how the Cowboys respond after being embarrassed at home last week, but how are they going to handle a hungry, aggressive Ravens team that is in it for their first win of the season. I mean, that's a tall task. And it's just not any kind of winless team. It's the Baltimore Ravens who went to the AFC Championship game and have the reigning MVP Lamar Jackson and have Derrick Henry in the backfield. This is going to be tough. And if the Cowboys can pull it off, man, hats off. That's going to show us really something that we can be confident in this team. But let's talk about it. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more Cowboys content. Let's go ahead and jump into this Cowboys defense and this Ravens offense. So as always, stats is up there, and it's still a small sample size. Obviously the Ravens are 0-2. That's nowhere near what they're going to look like at the end of the season. The Cowboys have given you a great game. They've given you a bad game. So it's, these stats I'm going to take with a grain of salt. I'm going to really rely on the team and the players that we know of. But there's the stats right there. The Ravens have the number 1 offense. The Cowboys have the 19th defense in the league. The Ravens are 4th in passing, 7th in rushing. And, we kind of went through it already, but they bring an arsenal of weapons, not only Lamar Jackson, and now you have to add Derrick Henry into that mix, but Zay Flowers. And I was looking at this roster. I was looking at their depth chart, but it's very similar outside of Derrick Henry, but it's very similar to what the Saints brought. I mean, the Saints receivers were yak leaders. Like, they could create yak after the catch. They were playmakers, and you give them the ball with the screen or a slant. I mean, they could turn a 5-yard catch into a 50-yard play. And again, the Cowboys are tested fundamentally. And we talked about it in the pregame prediction video last week leading up to that matchup, how I thought the Cowboys were going to be tested fundamentally, tackling, setting the edge, all those fundamental things that you teach a defense, and they were ripped to shreds. So it doesn't get any easier, because it's the same thing here. If you don't tackle Zay Flowers, he's going to go 10 yards. If you don't tackle Derrick Henry, he's going to have 2 touchdowns at the goal line for you. If you can't set the edge, Lamar Jackson is just going to run that option on you and have over 75 yards in rushing yards against this defense. So again, this defense, outside of scheme, outside of everything, like, they need to bring the effort. And that's kind of one of my main gripes with this team so far is Micah Parsons talked about on his podcast. Again, I couldn't care less about his podcast. Like, he does him, that's fine. But he talked about how maybe there was effort lacking. My problem is it's week 2. There shouldn't be a problem with effort in week 2. It's the start of the season, and it's your home opener, for God's sake. There should be no problem with effort and wanting to play your best at home for the first home game where you've been 16-0 for the past 16 regular seasons. Rant aside, effort. We need to see this team play. Now, here's the other thing. I'll talk about this on effort. So effort comes from confidence. Obviously, if you feel more confident about what you're doing, you can give everything that you have and do everything that you can to win the game. Confidence comes from preparation. And that's really what happens on the practice field before the games. That's really when the coaches come into play. That's really what Zimmer's game plan comes into action, and his scheme. So I've heard it the past week. Both sides talk about it. I've heard the players take accountability and say that they should play better and they should have more effort. But I've also heard Zimmer, talk about fixing it, needing to be better with this scheme. So I think we can all agree that this defense needs to play better. And I do believe they play better. Because here's the good news. There's no Shanahan tree here. And that's going to have to be in every pregame prediction video from here on out. We're going to have to talk about, like, hey, is there a Shanahan tree in here? Is there a lineage in here? Because if not, so don't worry. You can go to sleep pretty well this week. There's no Shanahan involved in this coaching scheme or anything like that. If I remember correctly, the offensive coordinator is Todd Monken, if I'm saying that correctly. Kind of an old head, similar to Mike Zimmer. And, I think that bodes well for the Cowboys. I think that's a good matchup. 2 old heads going at each other. I mean, that's kind of a dream for the Cowboys, is to have that kind of matchup. It's only when it's old versus young that the young completely just shreds us. So if we're talking about matchups in the same way that we talked about Kubiak and Zimmer last week, I like this offensive coordinator versus defensive coordinator matchup for Mike Zimmer and the Cowboys. And so it's going to be really interesting to see them go at it. And I think both teams are going to give and take. I think the defense is going to make plays. I think the offense is going to make plays. But let's go ahead and ask the biggest question. Why are the Ravens losing? Why in the world are they 0-2? Well, they've lost to the Chiefs and they've lost to the Raiders. Pretty shocking that they lost to the Raiders. But if you guys were hanging out with me on our week 2 live picks, I told you, I said, I feel like the Raiders would be very sneaky, and they were, but I ended up choosing the Ravens. But let's talk about why are the Ravens losing? Well, they're having a little bit of an identity crisis, similar to the Cowboys. They're not really doing what they do best, and credit to Kansas City and Las Vegas for taking those things away. But a little bit of an identity crisis. I think their offensive coordinator is really trying to make a point that Lamar Jackson is a pocket passer, which in some cases he is. Look, I'm not going to be one of those guys that's going to trash that at all. I mean, Lamar Jackson's a pocket passer. He can make some really great plays from the pocket. But, I mean, you got to play to a player's strengths. You know, you can't change a player. And I think that's what they're doing wrong in Baltimore is they're trying to not play to Lamar's strengths, which is running the ball, throwing on the run, making plays for himself. But also, too, there's a little bit of pressure to get Derrick Henry involved. I mean, you paid money, you signed him over the offseason to get King Henry the ball. He's not really getting the ball. So it's just like this imbalance of like, what should we do? What should we not do? And it's really leading to empty possessions. And those empty possessions are leading to other teams taking advantage. And their defense hasn't really helped them in points. Their defense has not been the best in terms of play action, which is really big. And we'll talk about this when we're talking about the Cowboys offense versus their defense. The Cowboys need to do more play action. And this Baltimore Ravens has been terrible against the play action. But we're going to get to that here in a little bit. But one of the biggest things is they've just been undisciplined. We talked about the offense, obviously, but 11 penalties, 109 yards last week. Third down efficiency was a big one. They were 3 for 11. So these are things that they can tweak and make better. I think penalties can obviously be fixed. And then third down efficiency too. If you can just get to short yardage situations, that's where every team wants to end up and just succeed on those third down conversions. And so why are the Ravens losing? Those are a few things. And I think if you add those things together, that's the reason why they're 0-2. Now, if you start the season 0-2, it's not the end of the world. I mean, everyone at some point is going to lose 2 games. It's just a matter of when you lose them, right? So the Ravens, I think, will be fine. If you're a Ravens fan watching this for whatever reason, I'm not pushing the panic button for you guys at all. You guys just got to figure it out. But talking about the Cowboys defense, look. Okay, we talked about it with effort, right? Like you just need to put more effort into it. I've already had my mini rant about that. But please, for the love of God, play DeMarvion Overshown. Oh, I'm still mad about this. I'm still fuming about this because Overshown was your highest graded player in week 1. And he only played 17 snaps in game 2. I don't want to hear any excuses, any kind of explanation about, base package and the same. No, when you have a good player, especially a defensive player, he should be on the field as much as possible. There's just no excuses about that. I mean, Overshown gives this team a better chance defensively instead of, the rookie Maurice. You can't split snaps like that. I mean, Kendricks and Overshown shown that they give you your best chance at linebacker play. And if you put Maurice and if you put Damone Clark in after them, you can do that. But your 2 linebackers are Eric Kendricks and DeMarvion Overshown. And now they have the big task, right, of Lamar Jackson. You got to put a quarterback spy on him. You got to put a spy on them. And I only want to see 2 players on him. I only want to see Overshown or Micah. And Mike Zimmer has talked about this, said most likely Micah. And I like that. I mean, Micah's a big speed kind of guy. And Micah's fast. I mean, and Lamar Jackson's fast, but like Micah can get to Lamar, which is kind of crazy, probably faster than Overshown will. So that too. And just getting back to our strengths. We can have a conversation about the 53-man and the personnel and how we should have gotten better, how we should have signed this person and drafted this person. But look, point is, we play best in man coverage, and you got to live and die with that. You can't be trying new stuff. And I mean, we got man coverage players with Kalen Carson and Trayvon Diggs, and You just have to go to those strengths. And if they beat us, they beat us. That's fine. But, wondering if by doing something different and not playing to your players' strengths, that's a whole different thing. And we've talked about that on this channel before. So a couple of things, right? Play overshown more, man-to-man coverage, play with a little bit more effort. Those 3 changes, honestly, are going to give you so much of a better effort. And honestly, Todd Monken, their offensive coordinator, he's just not going to dial up the same plays Kubiak. It's like asking Mike McCarthy to run a Shanahan tree offense. It's just not in the realm of possibility. It's not their style of football. It's not where they come from when it comes to running an offense. So I think the Ravens they're definitely not going to be as creative as the Saints. And I think the Cowboys have an advantage there. And I think the Cowboys defense, like I said, on top of the 3 things that I talked about, this defense will play better. That's my guarantee. They will definitely play better. And if they don't, I don't even want to talk about if they don't. They're not going to get blown out. I'm hesitant to say that, but they're not going to get blown out. No way, right? Anyways, this defense will play better. They will play better. If they do those 3 things, they will be better. And you'll see a better effort and a better game from this defense in week 3. So here's my defense predictions, right? I talked about how this defense is going to play better, but also the Ravens are going to play a lot better. I mean, their season's low-key on the line. You never want to go 0-3. A lot of stuff happens when you go 0-3. So the Ravens, and on top of what I told you guys, like if a team's in a slump, come to Dallas. They're going to figure things out, and they're going to bring their best. So I got some different defensive predictions. I think Henry rushes over 100 yards. Yeah, I know you didn't want to hear that prediction, but I think it happens. I think he runs over 100 yards, and somehow, some way, the Ravens find a way to get Henry involved, and they get it here. I mean, why not, right? Like, run it against Dallas. I mean, just stretch it to the left and the right. Cowboys can't set the edge because they don't have the personnel to do it. Go ahead and do it. And I think Henry clicks and he has 100 yards, maybe has 1 or 2 touchdowns. I think, unfortunately, Lamar looks like his MVP self, too. Again, things are going to click for the Ravens, and this game's going to go back and forth. We're going to punch them. They're going to punch us. It's going to go down to the wire. But Lamar's going to look a lot better than he did in those first 2 weeks, and it's going to be a dogfight. Now, on top of that, my third prediction, Dallas's defense will be better. They will be better. I don't know if there's going to be any turnovers. That's definitely a tough one to maybe an interception. And 2 sacks possibly, but this defense will definitely play better. I mean, they're not going to let 44 points. I'm so right? I mean, they're not going to let 44 points again, right? They can't. Anyways, this defense will play better. And go ahead and comment down below your defensive predictions as we go ahead and move on to this Cowboys offense versus the Ravens defense. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And let's go to take a look at these stats. Once again, small sample size. Cowboys are the 17th offense, 9th in passing, 25th in rushing. And you look at the Ravens defense, 15th overall. Ravens defense is not as good as it's been the past couple of years. They've kind of made that a staple in Baltimore, especially in the AFC North. A defense is kind of what wins them ball games. Now, on the other side, 9th passing makes sense because that's kind of what all the Cowboys can do. And rushing 25th is abysmal. It's so funny that a couple of years ago, Mike McCarthy was like, we're going to run the damn ball. We never, it can't really be his fault. He doesn't have anybody back there to run. And this obviously goes deeper than Mike, but the GM, Jerry Jones, just didn't set this team up for success. You don't have a number 1 guy. I can tell you who I think should be the number 1 guy, and I've said it since week 1. It's Rico Dowdle. And then you put Zeke in short yardage situations, and I'd love to see Dalvin Cook be activated and just try something that isn't Deuce Vaughn, right? But Jerry has already been on 105.3 The Fan early this week, said, I don't see a situation where Dalvin is elevated from the practice squad, which I hate how Jerry answers questions. I mean, just say yes or no. You don't have to say, give us a soliloquy or anything like that. But anyways, back to the game. I think the Cowboys have struggled. They've been rusty. That's been frustrating. I think when your best player for offense has been your kicker, which is Brandon Aubrey, you got problems. Too many times we're down there in the red zone and we can't make that play to get 7 points, and we're settling for 3 points. Mike McCarthy, I'm getting suspect on his play calling. I'm getting, because he should really be so much better at this point. He really should be finding ways and more creative ways to getting all of his guys involved here. And I do believe the Cowboys have a really great game here. The Ravens have struggled in play action. And if you look at the stats here, the Ravens have allowed, I believe it's 11-11 in play action when it's been against them. And they're one of the worst defenses against the play action this early on in the season. And this is something that Dak is so good in when you get him in play action. On top of him being against the pressure, Dak is tremendous in play action. And, no empty gun, none of that. Get Dak in a play action, and you will see magical things happen. And I don't really think this is something that we should be wanting in the sense that it should have already been done. It's not like we have a new OC. It's not like we have a new play caller. It's none of that. This is why I'm a little bit frustrated with Mike McCarthy this far in the season. The defense, they have new pieces, so I expected some growing pains. The offense, though, however, a lot of continuity is there. So they need to be better, and they need to score more points. And play action. Like I said, Baltimore has allowed a lot of successful plays against them in play action. And I really need to see it from this first drive. I need to see increased rhythm. I would love to see this team. And, I'm always defense, right? I'm always defense wins championships. But I would not be opposed to the Cowboys laying down their dominance here if they win the kickoff, taking the ball and putting your offense out there first. And of course, if the Ravens win the toss, they're going to give us the ball anyways. They're going to defer to their defense to be out there on the field first. So the Cowboys need to make a statement here. They need to make a statement with their offense and fire first. They have to be dominant. They have to set the tempo. They have to set their rhythm and go from there. And that's what this game needs to be, because the opportunity is there. I think, honestly, if the Cowboys score less than 20 points, someone needs to be on the hot seat, because this offense is too good with CD and Jake Ferguson and Dak Prescott and Brandon Cooks to not score more than 21 points a game. They need to be better. And if Brandon Aubrey's kicking 4 to 5 field goals again, you're doing something wrong, and you're not playing your pieces correctly. There's so many things that McCarthy can do to get this offense going. Make it 88's game. Move him in the slot, move him in the motion, get Turpin involved in the passing game. And no Jalen Brooks. Jalen Brooks had his time. He had his shot. That's my personal opinion. Give me Ryan Flournoy in there, and let's try to make some noise with this offense. Let's try to get some rhythm, because honestly, that's the Cowboys' identity. That's what they're best at, being the number one offense last season. This is what they're good at, is their offense. And so this needs to be a statement to be better and score more and turn these 3 points that they're settling for into 7 points. And I think if they do that, they'll be very successful, and that's really going to help out the defense as well. So here we go. Offense predictions here for the Dallas Cowboys offense. I believe that they'd score on the opening drive. I believe that should be a point, because of all the struggles the past couple of weeks. This should be a point to score on the opening drive, and I would not be opposed to going for it on 4th down. I'm just saying that. I think it's that crucial for this offense to get something going this early on in the game. With saying that, I do think Zeke gets a touchdown. I think he gets in the end zone on a short yardage situation. I do believe CeeDee Lamb has another big day. He was 4 receptions of 90 yards and a touchdown last week. I do believe he breaks that 100 yards and has a big day against this Ravens defense with the play action. And saying that, I do believe Dak Prescott has a big day too. I'm going with Dak Prescott throwing for over 300 yards in this week 3 matchup against the Ravens. Well, there you have it. Those are my offense predictions. Be sure to comment down below yours, and be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more Cowboys content. But we have come to the end of this video, and as you guys know, it is time for a game prediction. We talked about the offense. We talked about the defense. We talked about Lamar versus Dak. We talked about play action. We talked about a lot of stuff. What do I believe is going to happen in this game? Ravens are 0-2. They're desperate for a win. If they don't, they're going 0-3, something that they haven't done since 2015. Cowboys lose this game. They go 1-2, and they have the Giants on a short week. So not really a pressing situation as the Ravens are, but I don't think that plays a factor into it. However, we do need to see something from this defense. We just cannot see another effort like they did. And the Ravens are more than capable of putting up a big run game. But this defense has to play better if we're going to have any kind of legitimate chance at winning the NFC East or even contending in the playoffs. I think the offense bounces back. I think they're going to play a great game. I do believe the defense plays a better game. And I do believe, like I said, all video, I think the Ravens will look like the Ravens. If you're in a slump, come to Dallas. You'll bring your best, and you'll look like your normal self. So I think Henry has a big game. I think Lamar has a good game, and he looks like the MVP that he was last year. I think this is going to be a tough, close game. I think both teams are going to go back and forth. Lamar and the Ravens are going to get theirs. Dak and the offense is going to get theirs. Defense is going to look better, and both teams are going to be fighting till the final minute. On paper, look, I'm going to be honest with you because I'm unbiased and realistic. On paper, I think the Ravens look primed to get this game, and they look like they're going to get a win in Dallas. Because on top of that, it's hard just to see them going 0-3. But there's a gut feeling that I have that possibly the Cowboys can look like the Cowboys and put up a really good fight and win in the last minute. However, I don't trust them. And I'm sorry, I just don't trust them at this moment. I've been saying this since the beginning of the season. Let's wait and see what type of team that we have. It's still early in the season. Let's see how they play a solid opponent, a hungry opponent like the Ravens. Because what you see from this game will tell a lot about what we'll see from this team from the rest of the season. But at this moment, I would not trust them in a big game like this. Against a winning team, against a solid team like the Ravens, I do not trust them to win at home against the Ravens. So therefore, I do believe this defense is going to look better. I believe the offense is going to put up some points, but I do see the Ravens looking like the Ravens and getting back to their former self and getting their first win of the season in Dallas. I do believe the Ravens will beat the Cowboys by a field goal. And honestly, Justin Tucker has been struggling, and just like it always happens, he's going to look like Justin Tucker. And I think he's going to hit a game-winning field goal to get their first win of the season for the Ravens. I got the Ravens by 3, winning this game 27-24. Well, there you have it. I know you're not happy with me. I know you're mad, but hey, I'm an unbiased and realistic Cowboys fan. And you know, it's early in the season. I just want to see what type of team we have. I just want to see who they are. I don't want to get my hopes up anymore. I just want to, like, if you're good, you're going to win this game. If you're not going to win this game. It's as simple as that. And I just want to see what they do and how they bounce back. That's all it is. But that's my unbiased and realistic opinion. Ravens win, Cowboys lose, and they're both 1-2. But of course, on Sunday, I will see you after the game for a post-game reaction. I'll see you then. Go Cowboys.
Yeah, here we go. Here's it out